What?
Doesn't get any easier.
What doesn't?
Life!
Oh, no, it doesn't. It's basically a fast train to hell.
For God's sake, Mom!
All right, yes, I'm overstating it. I agree. It's a fast train to heck!
We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Greetings and welcome to the Anadromist. This is Byrne Power, your Anadromist for the day. And what we're going to do today is a slight addendum to our series on time. And I said I would do these anytime there was some issue, some film, some book, whatever that struck me in relationship to the subject of time. We would go over it. So what we're going to do today is look at, we're going to look at the film I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is directed by Charlie Kaufman, who is a noted screenwriter. He is responsible for such films as Being John Malkovich. I think that's the one that put him on most people's radar. Adaptation, also Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Those are all films that he wrote the screenplay for. But even though they're variously directed by Spike Jonze or Michel Gondry, the French director, they always have a sense of the Kaufman-esque. Kaufman-esque is really a word to describe Charlie Kaufman's work, because there really is something unique, and he is an artist. He is an auteur. So he also directed several films. Schenectady, I want to say Schenectady, New York, but it's Schenectady, New York, and Anomalisa, which I have to confess I did not see those two. Hey, I'm imperfect, but I did see this film, which is currently streaming on a service I don't care to advertise for, since they are massive, and I didn't actually watch it through that service, because I live in Georgia, and we have ways of getting around things here. But Kaufman's work often features issues related to identity, displacement, alienation. He often features the multiplication of human images. If you think of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the multiplication of the various characters in there as they're trying to save their memories from being erased. Also the multiplications of John Malkovich's. And he also does that in this film as well. He also features the impossibility of knowing. I mean, he's basically... I would say he is a postmodernist by definition, on the nihilistic side, but an honest postmodernist. He's not one of these people who uses kind of postmodern irony just for its own sake. He really understands the issues involved. The book, which he is adapting, is by Ian Reid. I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And of course, in that title, my mind immediately jumps to, well, ending life. But in fact, the story starts off about a woman who's thinking of ending things with her boyfriend. And they're on a rather wintry journey, a rather bleak, gray, wintry journey to visit his parents on a really stark farm setting. This whole film is seeped in symbolic imagery. The film is never exactly what you think it is. And even at the end, you'll be left scratching your head. What makes this an absolutely amazing film is, well, there are several things. One, Kaufman's script. I haven't read the book, but evidently he doesn't do exactly what the book does. So I would say you could watch this film without reading the book, or you can watch this film after having read the book, and you'll get something different out of it each time. He's not making it to be the book. He's making it to reflect on his own issues. And one of those issues deals with aging. I mean, he's a couple years younger than I am. He's starting to feel the soft breath of mortality on one's shoulders, and it makes you think. And also, as you age, you face more and more limitations. Also, he's dealing with memories, and this is a rather important aspect of the film. I'm not going to give away any details that will spoil you from watching it, but I will say this. The subject of memory is extremely near and dear to the subject of the film. But before we get into talking too much more about the film, I just want to point out the acting. Jesse Plemons is like, I don't know, if Philip Seymour Hoffman had a younger brother, he'd be Jesse Plemons. They're very much in a, there's an area over there that they inhabit. Jesse Buckley does an amazing job acting as the rather ironic, all-too-knowing girlfriend who is meditating on the nature of what's happening during this journey. And a lot of this film takes place in the car. I mean, I would say at least a third of the film takes place in the drive to and from the parents. And if that sounds boring to you, trust me, it isn't. I mean, this is actually a great film, and it's going to show up in many different awards ceremonies at the end of the year, or whenever they're going to do it. This is 2020. Who knows if there will be an Academy Awards presentation? And frankly, I don't actually care that much. But it is a great film. Toni Collette, who was criminally overlooked for her role in Hereditary, does another stellar job in a supporting role here as the mother. And David Thewlis, who first came to my attention through Mike Leigh's film Naked, which I highly recommend for people mature enough to watch it, does another absolutely great job of acting here. For younger viewers, he was in the Harry Potter series. Now, I don't even know the name of the character because I watched all those films, but I am not one of those people who cares about most of the names of the characters in those films. So I have other things in my mind. They're occupying it. And to stick those things in there, it's just like I know the basic details, but it's like, okay, Snape and Slytherin and blah, blah, blah. But you get too far down the list. I don't actually care. So live with it. But let's watch a scene with the four of them together. And it's a dinner scene, and well, I'm not even going to comment on it. No, this isn't the dinner scene. The dinner scene is actually probably the most uncomfortable I've been in a dinner scene since David Lynch's Eraserhead, which is saying quite a bit. But this is just a sitting in the front room on the couches scene. And I just want you to notice something.
Yeah. What did she want?
Oh, she was just calling to say hi.
How nice. Friends are important. Jake never really had a lot of them growing up, or even after. You remember your 50th birthday?
20th?
What did I say?
50th?
Oh, goodness, where is my brain? Anyway, friends can be helpful. That's what I've always found.
We're going to continue with this scene in a moment, but I just want you to pay attention to the humor in the scene, which is very strange, very Kaufman-esque. But listen to Toni Collette's laugh. And it starts off as funny and then turns into...
Life can be difficult. On a farm.
Doesn't get any easier as it trudges along, I'll say that.
What?
Doesn't get any easier.
What doesn't?
Life!
Oh, no, it doesn't. It's basically a fast train to hell.
For God's sake, Mom!
All right, yes, I'm overstating it. I agree. It's a fast train to heck!
Yeah, Toni Collette. She's an amazing actress. But one of the things you see in this film is that, well, for one thing, everything you just watched is not what you think you were watching. That's all I'm going to tell you about it. It's the whole film requires paying attention in some very odd ways to the film, and I would certainly recommend watching it more than once. Yes, there is a kind of a nihilism to the film, and all of Philip Kaufman's films have this kind of nihilism verging on romantic. That is to say, almost, in my mind, almost a romanticized version of nihilism, because it's like, oh, it's so dark, there's so little hope. And yet I don't think that's what Philip Kaufman's trying to say. I think that's just what's leaking out. But before we talk any more about hope and nihilism, let me get to the reason why I wanted to make this an addendum to the Time series. For one thing, whether you have or haven't watched the rest of my Time series, this is a very much, well, it is the postmodern view of time. We're going to watch a short scene here taking place in a car, just a voiceover in one of the characters' heads. And I want you to pay attention to what is being said about time.
People like to think of themselves as points moving through time, but I think it's probably the opposite. We're stationary, and time passes through us, blowing like cold wind, stealing our heat, leaving us chapped and frozen.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. Dead. I feel like I was that wind tonight, blowing through Jake's parents, seeing them as they were, seeing them as they will be, seeing them after they're gone.
What are you...
When only I'm left.
What are you thinking?
Only the wind. Not much.
The cold wind of time blows through us. It swirls around us almost. Now, Kaufman has dealt with time before. I'm thinking of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And maybe he's dealt with it in other places I haven't seen yet. Woe is me, I haven't seen everything. But in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the characters are trying to erase each other because of the pain that is caused through our memories. They're trying to erase each other from time, in a sense, to just be as if there were no time, and you could just go on without your memories. And I highly recommend Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This is where the romanticism of Charlie Kaufman's hopelessness comes out most to the fore. But in this film, you really get the sense of dislocation in time. I mean, really get the sense of dislocation in time. I don't want to go into it. You should watch it with knowing as little as possible. But here's what I want to point out. If Kaufman is right, and I'm not sure if this comes from the novel or not, because Kaufman did add quite a few things to this story. But if Kaufman is right, I'm sure this is partly what attracted him to the story nonetheless, then we are in a sense marooned in time. We are alone, and as he uses, the wind of time blows through us, this cold chill of time. But to me, this is exactly the problem of our age. This is why it is so hard to find meaning, is because we have come to find ourselves time's victims. We are standing against time. Time is like treading on us, wearing us down. And I just don't find that to be true. Why? Well, you can go back and listen to my series on time to find out. But I find that in order to experience the meaning of life, you have to travel within time. And if you see yourself living against it, trying to fight it, if you're, the way we travel, we're from here to there, jet lag. We're always traveling against the effects of time. But we're also doing this in our relationships. The hardest thing in most relationships is commitment these days. Yeah, people can weld their bodies together momentarily, but the commitment of being there till death do you part, that's a tough thing for postmodern people to deal with. And this film is no different in that regard. Because if time is just this thing swirling around us, but here's the point, it's this thing swirling around us, but what is our identity? And this is something Kaufman is always dealing with. And he really deals with this in Being John Malkovich, where, you go into the head of another person and no one, you start to live through other people, but who is the self going through into the other head? Very weak, And it seems that, in adaptation, he's got two versions of himself. He split them in two. The self is always a highly problematic thing for Charlie Kaufman. He has nothing to anchor it. And so even this image of being in time and time swirling around you, well, why shouldn't time just blow you where it will? Because that is what will happen. Eventually we will all age and we will all die. And the point is, what is the meaning of things? He is correct in locating the meaning within memory. And this, like I say, this film is all about memory. But then the problem is, what happens when your memory starts to fade, when the images from the past start to slip like sand through just going through a wide net? What happens then? Who are you then? My feeling is that our memories are key to who we are. So, and if we're dislocated in time, if we don't live in time, within the meaning of time, then our memories are also illusory. And this is very much a postmodern film in the sense that, don't trust the narration. The postmodern person does not trust the narration. We see this in politics today. Nobody trusts the narration of anyone else, the spin, the story someone else is weaving. And this story, you can't trust anybody's narration. That is to say, who's telling the story becomes a central problem. Whereas for me, as soon as you locate yourself in time, that ceases to be a central problem. Suddenly it's like, oh, well, we're all here in 2020 together. Guess what? There is a meta-narrative. We're all in it. Maybe it's a mega-narrative. It is so big, but we're all in it. Who isn't being affected by the pandemic of 2020? Who isn't being, many, many, many people are being affected by the social disruptions of 2020. And that's across the world. So many things are connected now. Well, that's another issue. But if we're dislocated in time, and if our memories define us in some deep way, then where does that leave us? And I don't think Kaufman has an answer. But I do believe that the memory is very important, and I've spent a great chunk of this series discussing why. I do think our location in time, in history, is very important. And when you locate yourself in time, through your memories, through your imagination, through history, through reading, through relationships, through meaning, then you're not lost. Because you know when you are. And this crazy virtual internet world tempts us to, pull the anchor up and just to drift. But don't do it. That's not where you find meaning. So Kaufman, essentially, like I say, he's a nihilist, a postmodern, who cannot find hope. And yet I feel in his work there is always the hope that maybe there is hope. And that's what makes him really worth watching. He's not just simply saying there is no hope. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you really see this, the erasure of memory, and yet you can't really erase the meaning of it in the end. Because there is something deep there. And what does love mean? Does it really mean something? In this film, well, I'll let you watch it yourself and come to your own conclusions. I can tell you this, though. When it comes to these issues, T.S. Eliot said it much more profoundly in the Four Quartets. And let's listen to T.S. Eliot himself reading a little bit from the four quartets. It's a great old recording.
Who then devised the torment? Love? Love is the unfamiliar name behind the hands that wove the intolerable shirt of flame which human power cannot remove. We only live, only suspire, consumed by either fire or fire. What we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from, and every phrase and sentence that is right, where every word is at home, taking its place to support the others, the word neither diffident nor ostentatious, an easy commerce of the old and the new, the common word exact without vulgarity, the formal word precise but not pedantic, the complete consort dancing together. Every phrase and every sentence is an end and a beginning, every poem an epitaph. And any action is a step to the block, to the fire, down the sea's throat, or to an illegible stone, and that is where we start. We die with the dying. See, they depart, and we go with them. We are born with the dead. See, they return, and bring us with them. The moment of the rose and the moment of the yew tree are of equal duration. A people without history is not redeemed from time, for history is a pattern of timeless moments. So, while the light fails on a winter's afternoon in a secluded chapel, history is now and England.
T.S. Eliot knew at the bottom there was help. He knew that it was a step, our lives are a step to the grave, a step to an illegible tombstone, to be swallowed up by the sea. That so much of everything we do is going to disappear. And Charlie Kaufman is hitting on similar nerves. But the big difference is, at bottom, Eliot knew there was a deep, deep hope. And that is what I would suggest for Charlie Kaufman to locate, and to locate himself within time. Charlie Kaufman wants there to be hope. He can't quite believe in it, for the very reason that most postmoderns can't believe it. And that is to say that they live in a time when you can't trust any stories to be true, because everything is being told for some sort of power dynamic narrative reason. It's all spin. But I say, no, it's not all spin. There really is communication. There really is joy. There really is peace. There really is love. But all of these things are found as relationships in time, not relationships merely in space. So humanity is not a photograph. Humanity is a living, breathing thing that takes time to evolve. So we'll leave it there. My recommendation is, if you're of any sort of intellectual, philosophical, thoughtful bent, give this movie a watch. Don't expect a big chuckle, though it does have some very funny moments. That's one of the very redeeming things about Charlie Kaufman's nihilism. There's always funny stuff that happens along the way. But it's a certain kind of funny that kind of gets you to go cult back as well. So go see this film if you like thoughtful films. And again, you're going to be seeing and hearing about this film later whenever on Earth they give out awards for this year. Okay, so have you subscribed to this channel yet? Smite like and do that. Subscribe and smite like. You need to do that. If you want to contribute, if you feel it in your heart to do so to help me get these things done, I would deeply appreciate it. And this is Byrne from Tbilisi, Georgia. Look it up on a map. Somewhere, it's not the end of the world, it's more like the center of the world. Saying I'll see you soon, or rather you'll see me. I'm trying to stick to a first and third Sunday of the month to release things, but I'm also, like in this case, throwing things in. This isn't too long, so I'm just throwing this in as a, let's get this off my chest. Meanwhile, coming up soon, How We Got Here, number 7. And that's going to be about the surface of the 1980s. And then there'll be one after that, the underground of the 1980s. I think those will be kind of interesting. And, hey, remember, Anadromous means swimming against the stream. Just do it.
A people without history is not redeemed from time. For history is a pattern of timeless moments.